There are too many acts of violence in this country. I thank God that we have a police force that is dedicated and are willing to serve our nation and its people, even when they're not being paid, even when some in Congress are acting childish, are not doing the business of this country. Well, they should take an example from the police officers, even though they're not being paid and their families are suffering. They do their job. They're willing to put their lives on the line to protect our nation. Our federal workers work hard for the little pay. They don't get the salaries that Congress and the Senate gets. They don't get parity with uh, they don't get 30% of their salaries when they retire like Congress and the Senate does. Now, there is something terribly wrong in this country when those who are not governing are willing to not pay the public servants who put their lives on the line, who today one has gone to the hospital doing his job, even though he's not being paid. That is shameful. And I hope those few in Congress and the Senate wake up and smell the coffee. That they have a responsibility to this nation, to its people, just like that police officer showed us all that he is willing to do his duty even though he is not being paid and was injured doing his duty to his nation. It's shameful. It is outrageous that his family aren't getting a paycheck. But he is an example to all Americans. He is doing his job for our country to protect and serve. Congress, you need to protect and serve the American nation and its people. Quit playing games. Show us you have as much dignity and love this country enough to do your jobs. If you can't do it for the nation, do it because that police officer is willing to give up his life to protect you and our nation. Protect and serve. That's what he did. And he's not receiving a paycheck. His family can be suffering now because of not receiving a paycheck, while you in Congress and the Senate receive your paychecks. Shame on you. Follow that policeman's example. Protect and serve our nation. For he is a patriot. Because he is willing to do his job even though his family is not receiving money that they should be receiving, his paycheck. And maybe you might, in Congress and the Senate, give the federal worker a few extra dollars because they're all suffering, but they're willing to serve, to do their jobs, to protect and serve this nation, even though some in Congress and the Senate aren't doing their jobs. Look at that gentleman, that police officer who was hurt doing his job. And thank God for those police officers, those federal workers who serve. You have let the country down, Congress and the Senate, when you have police officers who are willing to give their lives for this country, and you're not willing to do your job. He's done his without a paycheck. You gentlemen in Congress should have shame. And I can think of one person in the Senate that should also have shame. You need to follow the example of our men and women in blue who protect the nation's capital, who protect you, who protect our president. They do their jobs, even when they're not getting paid. The American people are asking no less of you in Congress and the Senate. You know, these police officers, men and women, are protecting our nation. They are a shining example of protect and serve. They serve the community. When will you serve the nation? When? Or are you constantly going to show the American people that you can't do your jobs? That you won't provide jobs, you won't rebuild this country. The Republican Party seems that they have no respect for this nation and its people. When you want to cut federal jobs, when you don't want to rebuild this country. Well, these police officers, they have shown that they love this country, that they are even willing to work without pay to do their jobs. You should do no less for the American people. Because if you do less, you are shaming those police officers, men and women, who serve and protect this nation and you. You're telling them they don't count when they do count. I think they count more than you gentlemen do. Because without pay, they have served and protect. They are Americans. When are you going to show the rest of the country that you will do just as much for the country and its people? All its people. Because those police officers protected and served for all the American people. they did their jobs. And I pray for those police officers. And I thank God for those police officers who are willing to work without pay and do their job protecting the important people in this country. Yes, Congress and the Senate, you're supposed to be important people. The president is important because he serves this nation just like those men and women in blue who are protecting this nation even without pay. Because some of you aren't just, aren't fair. It seems you don't care about this country as people who are willing to sacrifice their lives to do their jobs. Those police officers are at least, if not to you gentlemen in the Congress and the Senate, they're a shining example to the rest of America. And we're proud of them. We're proud to be Americans because of them. Not because of you gentlemen, but because of the police officers, men and women who are willing to serve this country and do their job for all of us. When will you do yours? And I hope every man and woman tonight prays and are proud of our policemen and women who serve this nation, who stopped the catastrophe today. Even without pay, a federal worker's willing to do his job. You gentlemen, men and women in Congress and the Senate, take their example. And also, make sure all the federal workers are getting paid because they do their jobs. I think you need to look at them because you're not doing your job. And that's another reason I pray for this country. That some sanity might come to those senators and congressmen that are supposed to be serving this nation. Not just a small group, but all the people in this nation. Just like those men and women in blue. You shouldn't be doing any less. Take their example and do your work.